Kino pavasaris. Kovo 18, balandžio 5 dienomis visoje Lietuvoje. Didysis partneris Ergo draudimo grupė. Informaciniai partneriai TV3, 15 min žmonės.
Mūsų karta pirmoji supratusi, kaip iš lėto kenkiame gamtai. Ir vienintelė, žinanti, kad dar yra laiko ją išsaugoti. Apsaugokime mūsų visų ateitį. Ergo.
Geriausius kino pavasario filmus parodys žiūrimiausia televizija TV3. Šeštadieniais 22:40.
Festivalis Kino pavasaris jūsų namuose. Visus filmus žiūrėkite Telia televizijoje jums patogiu metu. Telia. Įdomiau tik gyvenimas.
The laws of physics. The laws of life. Laws connect everything. We think that to be legal advisors, we must live under the same philosophy. Adapting to connect and connecting to adapt.
Sveiki, kalbėsime su filmo ORO kondicionieriai režisieriumi Fradique iš Angolos. Hi Fradique.
How everyone is. Hello.
I feel quite awkward that it's all those distances and technological things, but anyway, let's start from the beginning and
Yes.
really thanks a lot for your film, and maybe let's start from the beginning of the film, and maybe you could tell me where the idea came from taking photography, street photography, and joining it with the really beautiful and amazing track of Aline Frazao, because I felt that the beginning was really something special, like some kind of invitation to the magical world, which I don't know.
I always loved film credits, and I think they always kind of bring you in. And for this film, and all my previous films, I always use film credits, and I really wanted to use it, but I didn't know which kind of credits I was going to make. But during the editing process, shooting the film and post-production, I was very tired, and the opening credits of the film, how it ended up, they kind of saved me from the process of finishing the film. So the photographs are actually from Kafushi, which is a street photographer, a good friend of mine, and I think one of the most talented street photographers in documentary photographies that we have here in Angola. And the soundtrack was made by Aline Frazao, and I think was the soundtrack that I was not expecting at all. Like all the other songs, we talked a lot, we talk about reference, but this one, she completely went on the other side. And I think was because I said I really wanted to do this first song to people understand what Luanda is, what kind of mood, what kind of energy the city has. And I think by combining the two of them, it was for me like that moment, like, okay, I know what kind of movie I'm getting to. And I really wanted to bring the same experience to the audience, because you don't see Luanda from a drone shot. You don't see many places of Luanda. But once you get into the film, you know the energy of the city. You know the energy that the people and the film is trying to bring. So I think I was very lucky to have such inspired artists as she and Aline on board on this film with me,
Yeah, actually, Aline Frazao was a big, big discovery for me. I keep listening to the soundtrack, actually, from the beginning to the start, and it's really, really beautiful. Maybe you could tell a bit more about her, if she released some more albums, and why was it important for you to work specifically with her from the beginning?
Well, Aline, she's a very established international Angolan artist. She already has 4 albums. I'm a big fan of her work. I've worked with her before in her projects. I did a couple of music videos for her, and I think this was her first composing for a film, and I think more of looking to someone that had experience in composing I was looking for someone that had the sensibility, and I think had the talent to do a film score. And because she already knew so much of the script, because while me and Eddie Claver were writing, she was really next to us. We were giving her the drafts. It's true that some of the moments in the script already had like, I want this kind of song or music in this part, but I think this was a film that the music inspired some of the scenes, and the scenes inspired the music, especially in the editing part. And also during some of the days of the shoot, we actually were listening to songs that were not Aline's songs at the time, but were kind of the same mood and reference, because I really want the main character to have that tone. And I at the same time, I think having her on board gave me the confidence to make a film that I'm not afraid to use music. I don't like when you just have a soundtrack that fills in some gaps. I want a soundtrack that brings the character, brings the city, and I'm not afraid of playing 3 minutes of a song, because I think sometimes we as filmmakers forget to use all the tools that we have. Filmmaking has a big toolbox. You can be focused on the narrative, you can be focused on direction or music. And I think with this film, I tried to use as much as possible of all the tools I had, and not be focused only on narrative or only on character, or only on music. And I think that's what gives me most fun. And hopefully Aline will be able to join me on other projects, because I think he worked very well for both of us, and especially for the film. And there's the song that she wrote and composed also for Matacedo, who has the voice of Paulo Flores, which is a very Angolan singer. And I think that's one of the most beautiful pieces that we have as well with the film. And it carries the film, it carries the film in terms of, like, even if you're listening to that song without seeing the film, you can see the images of the film. You can feel what Matacedo is looking. So I think that's once again, I was very lucky to have such a talented and inspired artist on board for this project.
Yeah, congratulations with that, and it really, like you say, I think it really worked well, and the music really doesn't seem only as illustration or filling the gap, but really brings a lot of essence and feeling of the film. And you've mentioned another person, Ellie Carver, the cinematographer and co-writer. Maybe you could talk a bit about the narrative as well. How did you develop the story? Because, I mean, like, it's very kind of easy to invite even audiences with a small line of, oh my God, there's air conditioners falling from the, to the streets. But of course, there's a lot of metaphors in that, and maybe you could tell a bit more about this process of writing this really special story.
Eddie, I call him my cinema partner. Like, there's not a lot of people in Angola, especially outside of Angola. Of course, there's way more people, but like here in Angola and Luanda, there's not a lot of people that I can speak about cinema, kind of on the same page. Eddie is a filmmaker and also as well. He's a director as well, and he's someone that for you to see, like he when Bergman did 100 years was his anniversary, the Swedish embassy invited him to do the decoration of the Bergman anniversary here in Angola, because he's someone that loves European cinema, like myself, and we've been discussing films for so many years. He's been doing most short films and more like arts driven films, more for galleries and stuff. But now in the recent years, he's been doing short films, and now he's actually shooting his feature film, his first feature film as a director. And so we decided to make this film together because both of us, we had so many little stories about living in buildings like the one you see in the film. And we kind of like, let's just sit down and push this forward and join. Like I had many stories with the security guard. He had a lot of stories with the housemaid, and the character of Mr. Mino, who has the shop. He already shot on the shop once, and I had a character for the shop. So we kind of put together everything that we had. Because we've been talking and writing in the same universe for so many years now, that it made no sense for me to write this film by myself. Because even in terms of even if Eri didn't write the film, he was going to shoot it because he's a director of photography that knows and sees the city and the details of the buildings. How I want to show them, because I didn't want a film that was completely lit, like a Hollywood film. I really want to see the darkness and the empty spaces of those buildings. So it's kind of like it was a partnership that worked very well. He was someone that I was very happy to have on set because he kind of gave me. Like, once again, like I try to, when I'm working on a project, I try to surround with people that I trust and I respect. And at the same time, I know I'll be there for them if they have any problems, and they will be there for me if I have any issues. So I think the partnership grew out of love for cinema for so many years, yeah.
That's very, very beautiful, and actually, this energy, I think it's transmitted by watching the film. You can feel this really like beautiful energy and love to the characters and to the city. At least for me, it seemed like I really felt all of that. And what about the air conditioners falling from the buildings? I mean. Of course, probably most of the audiences will understand this and be invited to interpret what it stands for by themselves. But anyway, I would really like you to tell how you, what you put into the falling air conditioners in this film.
Once again, like we, in terms of Angolan literature, we have a very big presence of magic realism, like Latin, South American literature. And I think that comes from a place where, especially in the city of Luanda, the absurd of events, it's something that is very common. And what makes more absurd, I think, of some of those events is how people just go on with their daily life. And we wanted to bring that element to the narrative because, and we didn't want to make a big deal out of it. We wanted to Matacedo and everyone else just carry on with their day. It's air conditioners falling. And at the same time, we did want to leave that sort of mystery, why they're falling, what are the reasons they're falling, why people are not reacting. Because those unanswered questions is something that we actually sometimes live here in Luanda. Like right now we're going to a big trash crisis, like amazing. Like it's been like 3 months and the city is very, very dirty right now. Like there's trash everywhere, but there's a lot of gossip why there's trash everywhere. Like it's either contracts between the city and the trash companies. Now they're stealing trash the trash companies are supposedly stealing the trash cans. So those unknown answers, it's something that we as citizens, because we don't have a very transparent government, we don't have a very official and direct way of dealing with things in terms of our country. So it leaves space to a lot of gossip, a lot of unknown. And we wanted to bring that element. Also because the air conditioners, I think, like the generators or the water pumps that most of the buildings downtown have, they represent kind of a symbolic dependency that we have with these mechanical things, you know, supposedly to keep us fresh and take care of our air. So it was something that it was very appealing to us. Plus, when we start developing the character of Mr. Mino, it just made completely sense for us that the air conditioners could be falling, and this old man was trying to recover something inside of them. You know, everything just came naturally. You know, it was not something. Of course, I've seen something fall from the buildings, not air conditioners, but I've seen a whole refrigerator, first the door and then the whole refrigerator, and I kind of had to step back from the window, but I never seen an air conditioner fall here. But I've heard of falling, so it's not really inspiring on something, but I think it's more inspired on the absurdity of events that we as Angolan citizens many times have to live with, you know.
Yeah, and I felt as well that there was a small comments between the characters and of course the figure of the boss constantly, you know, shouting and asking for this. But as well, there was some comments in the film about the inequality as well, and you could sense that in some radio talks that you put in the film as well, there is this big inequality, social inequality, but as well this kind of abusive power that you kind of want to, maybe I wouldn't say like criticize like in your face, but I felt that it's important for you to mention and to show this. Maybe you could talk as well a bit the context of, I don't know, inequality and social justice a bit in Luanda.
Well, our city has a huge gap of inequality. You know, you have people that are filthy rich, and you have people that are, you know, very poor. Plus, you have places like downtown where these the different classes clash. And I think with these old buildings, what's been happening is like the place where we shot and the building where we shot is like the street right behind the postcard of the city. And the postcard of the city, it looks like Dubai, you know, it looks like, you know, tall skyscrapers, glass buildings and everything. But the street behind, like many other buildings and many other streets, are kind of being pushed away from that. And I believe there's this will of people in power to kind of hide that or push away. You know, they want the city to be represented of something that completely ignores the actual people that live here. You know, Luanda has 8 million people. You know, and probably less than 1% live and have the means to live on those skyscrapers and glass buildings. So that leaves, you know, what happens to the 7,099,000, you know, of those persons. So we wanted to have that in the film as well, because we feel that many times, and also because of the main characters, like we didn't want to have a main character that was the boss. We want the main character to be the security guard and the housemaid. We did intentionally not show the boss's face, you know. I think we even shown too much, in my opinion, at the end. I really didn't want to see them. I like on purpose. I don't want them to be visible. I want to put the camera on the security guard. Even when we were shooting the film, one of the days, someone walking on the street, people stop and watch us shooting the film. So a guy came to me, because everything was very open, we were a small crew, and he was like, "Why are you pointing the camera to the security guard?" I was like, "Because he's the main character." He's like, "Why is the main character in the film?" I was like, "Because it's his story, it's his day. It's a film about his daily routine." And he's like, Is that interested? I was like, "I think so." But the guy didn't, he was completely surprised. And this was something that even started during the casting. A lot of actors didn't want to do the casting for a security guard or a housemaid. They wanted to play a villain. They want to play a big boss, And that tells me, at least for me and Eddie and the rest of the crew, how important it is for us to keep telling stories from the perspective of the working class, from the perspective of the majority that actually don't have, presence on the screen, not only on Angolan screen, but even outside, We want the films that we see as Angolans can be, people can go to the theater and see themselves. Because if you put 200 people in the theater, they're not going to be the boss. They're probably going to be working class people. They're going to be, bus drivers. They're going to be, security guards or housemaids. So that for me was an important aspect of it. And I try to bring that in with the radio, because the radio and the television are something that still have a big presence here. Only 2 million people in Angola, I think, use internet. So that's a very small number. A lot of people still get their news by radio. A lot of people still get their news by television. So I still do it. So we wanted to bring that debate that we actually hear on the street and on the cars and the taxis, radios, to the film as well,
And you've mentioned already the character of Mino, but I wanted just to share with you that I know one of, I think, most beautiful and touching scenes for me was when he was sitting on the stairs smoking, and you can see the tear in his eyes, and I was so touched by this character, and I thought maybe you could talk a bit more as well what he stands for in the film, and this his appreciation of the memory and this developing future machine. I felt like he's really, really special character in the film.
I have a big connection with Mr. Mino, not only because he is part of a generation that my parents belong to. He's part of a generation that fought for our independence, and he's part of a generation that believes that we should learn and we should preserve our memories, and learn with our memories and preserve our memories. And I wanted to bring his character in terms of a confrontation also with the other two. Mr. Mino is more of a person that is looking to the past to find answers, to find a solution to the problem in the film and to the problem in the city, And you have Zezinha, which is a housemaid. She really doesn't want to dwell so much in the past or dwell so much about the future. She just wants to carry on with her day and push forward. And then you have Matacedo, who is kind of stuck in the present. He does what he's told to do, and that's it. But when those three characters kind of get together, things change for them. When Zezinha is with Matacedo, she thinks about the past, because he brings that energy, And when Matacedo is with Mr. Mino, he has hopes for the future. And Mr. Mino also has hopes with Matacedo. So I wanted to bring that energy with these three characters because it's something that I see with different generations and with different people in the city. And I think we, as Angolans, and kind of quoting the name of a song of an Angolan artist called Nasty Mosquito, we are prisoners of hope, We've been hoping for so long, like since our independence, which was a very important mark in our country's history. We've been hoping so much either for the end of the Civil War, for better social justice, to stop inequality, to end poverty, for a better government, for the president to leave office. We had a president that stayed in office for almost 38 years. So we kind of stuck so much and there's this song named Prisoners of Hope that I think it translates a lot about who Mr. Mino is, and that energy and tension between all those three characters,
Yeah, and then there is this beautiful conversation in the end when Zezinja and Mataseda speaks about the loneliness and this connection between people, because I feel that all of those characters, in a way, they really crave for this true connection with each other, but it seems that there is no time, or there is no space, or there's just something, this constant struggle which blocks them from, I don't know, making a connection and just, going a bit more with the flow. But you mentioned as well a bit already about this memory and the difference between generations. Maybe you could elaborate a bit more about how this collective memory in Angola is approached in different generations, and what is this how this story of history of Angola is being told. Is it different amongst younger people and older generation, which you said?
Well, it's before Air Conditioner, I worked on a big project called Independence. It was a project for almost 6 years. I worked with George, who is the producer of Air Conditioner, and we worked with an archive association. And during those times, we collect a lot of interviews and stories about the people who participated in the liberation struggle. And that project came to be because, we felt that, and not only we felt, it was the reality, and it still is a bit, that the people that were mentioned about our liberation struggle or our independence were like the heroes, the people that had a statue or the name on a street, and especially the people that belonged to the party that ruled the country after independence. And with that project, we tried to bring the unknown, the other people that didn't have a voice, the women, and the people that live in the countryside during independence, that fought there in the countryside. And when we went there 40 years after to interview them, they were still in the same place. So that project kind of broke a lot of barriers for me. I got in touch with the country because before that I only knew a couple of provinces, and because we were in a civil war. And also it got me in touch with the memories and the sacrifices that a lot of people made for our independence to be real. And at the same time, how people saw their participation for our independence was very important for them. Do they see them as an important person for participating in such big event? A lot of them didn't, because they didn't get the recognition. And because our history books doesn't even mention or goes deep into it. It talks about very few dates, a very few people, and that's it. And I think when it comes to a country's independence, when it comes to a country's civil war, you really have to listen and make everyone that really sacrificed be part of the conversation. And I think with the cinema we're trying to bring as a collective as well, it's a bit change the perspective, change the perspective who the stories are about and who are telling the stories, not only the characters but as well the filmmakers, And I think it gives me hope of when we finish projects like this one, but at the same time it remembers something that for me is very clear. Making cinema here, it's a sort of a resistance. It's a sort of a protest, because you don't have a lot of, you don't have film funds at all here in Angola. So, and culture is not something that has a specific plan. So as a filmmaker trying to approach, cinema and filmmaking not as a product or something as art, something to bring a debate to the table, it's something that it's not very welcome, or even like people support you a lot, So that's why it's important for us to have this collective. That's why it's important for me to have, be surrounded by artists that believe in the same ideas, or at least why it's so important to keep making films and keep making art,
Yeah, actually, that was my last question, which I wanted to ask, because I think people in Lithuania, the audience, which gonna see your film, we don't know that much about Angolan cinema and artists from there. And you mentioned already a bit that there is no funds and it's kind of difficult to make films. But maybe you could just talk a bit more how, what other voices is there trying to make films in Luanda. And I know that you studied in United States, but you have decided to come back, which I think is really, admirable act of yours. And maybe you could just say a bit more as well on general, situation of cinema in Angola.
Well, I'm a part of a privileged class, and I'm very aware of that. And I really got. I don't know if there's a lot of few people that were able to study and get a degree on filmmaking outside of the country. By the time that I went out, there was no filmmaking courses. Now there is one school that is giving filmmaking courses. But like I said, my parents' generation is a generation that lived during colonial times and was part of the independence, and they lived the first years of independence dreaming of, of a socialist revolution, of something that would bring more equality to everyone. And I think my generation suffers from a sort of a virus that we own something to the country, we own something to the people, we should participate more. And I'm not saying that's something everyone should do, but it's something that I totally see it now for many years, how my generation deals about giving back to the country, and it's not all my generation, but a lot of people that I know. And our collective comes from that place of we wanted to make films together, and there were not a lot of people in the beginning. It was just me, George, the producer of Air Conditioner, and Chilaya. And we were 3 people. Now we are around 22 people. And we have not only directors of photography, we have directors, we have art directors, we have producers, we have editors. So the way we're trying to approach our productions, and it's been more like every year we're trying to make a project. And it doesn't have, and the idea is not every year we make a project like my project, like last year, the last film was Air Conditioner, and now last year and this year we've been shooting Eri's film, and I myself, I'm working on Eri's film. I'll be editing the film. So we try to participate in each other's project and try also to find new ways of, find how you can work as a collective and at the same time do, independent and have some authorship, from an artist. And I think it's been a very interesting experimental years, and we've been learning a lot in terms of, how this engages more and gives more. It destroys a bit the ego that sometimes in filmmaking process a lot of filmmakers go through. And also it gives you perspective. If I'm editing someone else's project, it's good because I'm learning, and when I'm directing my own film, it's going to be easier to talk with the editor, or even talking with the composer. So taking turns, it's an approach that we've been doing for the last years. it's the last 10 years of our collective, we worked mainly in documentaries and short films. And Air Conditioner was the first feature fiction film that we did. We are now doing the second one. And the third one, which is, it's being written right now, it's from a filmmaker called Hugo Salvaterra. So it's something that we hope we can keep going and find, not only film funds here or even outside that allow us to do that. And at the same time, one thing that we are really fighting for is to be able to watch more films here. Because our theaters and our cinemas, 99% of the films are American. Sometimes you might get, a British film, but you don't even get a Brazilian film here. You don't get a Portuguese-speaking film here. And worst, you don't get an Angolan film in the theaters. Like, you have to do a lot of effort to get Air Conditioner in the theaters here, because the film multiplexes, they don't want to give space, and the government doesn't push them to give space because they want to sell tickets for James Bond, And the other thing that we really doing is we're doing our own screenings. We've been doing screenings not only in our house here at the collective, but we've been doing screenings in different associations or different spaces, outdoor screenings. Not only of our films, but of other African filmmakers, or even filmmakers that we believe that speak a lot to us. It doesn't have to be an African film. We've seen, films from China, or even films from Russia, or films from Brazil, or Chile, or France that speak a lot to us. And I think we should be able to share those films here. And I think our film institute and our government should be more present on pressuring those theaters to have those films, because otherwise, if we only watch, Marvel films as an audience and as young filmmakers, it completely destroys whatever you want to do, because you're not going to make a Marvel movie in Angola. You don't have that kind of budget. You don't have that kind of setup. Plus, what those films bring, it's something of a very self-centered hero, you can do everything American way, that I don't think it gives you anything but distraction, And I think films should not be only for distraction, and should be, to bring, debate, reflect, for empathy, for sharing. And I'm really looking forward we can get some Lithuanian films here as well, because I think we're definitely going to find good stories.
I wanted to say, let's exchange our films, and I think we can, I would be glad to show the new films of your colleagues that's gonna be made, and I would be really glad to show some Lithuanian films. So let's agree to exchange.
Yes.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Fradique, for the conversation, and I wish you and all of your collective really good luck and patience and energy.
Good luck with your festival. I know it must be a lot of work to put that online, so everything goes fine, and have a good end of the festival as well.
Thanks a lot. Ciao.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Quando acordei essa cidade, minhas costas nunca se deitaram. Luanda te ensina a dormir sentado.
Registram-se por todo o país o aumento de mortes por causa do calor e quedas de ar-condicionados.
Eu quento essa semana.
Eu quero encontrar esse aparelho na porta, mas bem cedinho. Não quero ter problema com o chefe. Entendeu, né? Não quero ter problema com o chefe. Está dito.
Cotamino! É o mata-feio!